Today, I'm going to be going through the 5 most common recurve technique mistakes and how you can fix these and work on them as well. So, we're going to dive right in with the first one, which is not spending enough time with the grip and the hook. So this is really important because when you think about it, the bow hand and the hooking hand are the only 2 parts of the shot that continuously touch the bow through the whole shot. So if you get these things right, if you hook your fingers on the string correctly and get this secure and keep it through the shot, and if you place your bow hand in the grip correctly, if you get these right, your chances of a good shot massively increase. So definitely paying enough attention to this and focusing on it is really important. I want to show you now some drills that you can do to improve this. So if we go over here, so if you go to onlinearcheryacademy.com, my website, and then you go to the training thing at the top, archery drills and bow training library, and then I'm going to zoom out so that you can actually see. So that was far too zoomed in. But you'll see there's lots of drills and you can filter these, and we want to go to the set position section here, and it's this set position repeats drill that you want to look at. So essentially, this is nothing fancy, this drill, but essentially, for me, I have the bow on the foot, and it's basically just taking the bow off the foot, placing the hooking fingers on the string securely and getting that correct, and placing the bow hand in the grip correctly, just doing that, and then putting the bow back on the foot. So it's basically just getting that part of the shot correct and then repeating. You don't need to do the rest of the shot just to repeat this position, because you can practice this 200, 300, 400 times if you want, and you're not going to get that tired. It's not going to take that much energy. So this is a really good way to practice the set position. If you have the bow on the leg as well, you can do exactly the same thing. So I just want to bring up a video here for you so you can see. But essentially, if you have the bow on the leg, you can do exactly the same thing here. And we've got a video of Brady, and you'll see what he does. And this video is good as well because it shows you exactly what I meant. But look how much time Brady spends here. If we press play, resting the bow on his leg, waiting for the wind, whatever, that's fine. Look how much time he spends getting his hook. He looks down, he visually checks his hook as well, which is a good thing to do. He spent a good 2 or 3 seconds there, making sure his bow hand was correct and his hooking hand was correct and secure before then raising and going through the shot. So this is a great video to show because this is how you would do it if you were using the bow on the leg, and you could just essentially repeat this bit. You could stand there, check your hook and your grip, repeat this as many times as you want just standing there, and you don't even need to shoot. So this is a great example of a drill you can even do at home when you don't have access to a range, or maybe it's bad weather in the winter at the moment, so that kind of thing. But also I encourage you to spend a bit more time and also visually check each shot if your hook and your grip is correct. So that's a great way to work on this, and I'd really encourage you to prioritize this. One note that I want to make here is you need to maintain, if you watch the elbow here, you need to maintain the hook particularly being secure through the shot. If you relax the hook, even if you set it correctly at the start, but then you relax it, I'll go to the full screen here. For example, if you set it, you come up, you're drawing, and then you kind of soften off and relax, this elbow is going to collapse. And then you lose the tension to your scapula, you lose the movement around when you're getting to full draw and the expansion, and it can also lead to struggling to get through the clicker as well. So you really need to make sure that you maintain that hook secure through the shot. So that's what I want to kind of mention there, if you like. Now, the second thing I wanted to mention as well is the posture and the head position. So I've got another good drill for this as well. But essentially, the reason your posture and your head position, I'm not going to go into the whole technique of it yet today, because I've already done that. You can go to the technique section here and go stance and posture to read about that. But the reason it's so important is if your stance and posture is moving, you can't feel what's happening in your shoulders. So then you don't know if your shoulder is high or if your draw shoulder is not moving how you want. You can't notice, you can't feel, because your whole platform is moving around and you have no idea. And it's not that you need to think about it more or anything, it's that you need stability in the center to be able to feel what's happening with your shoulders and through your shot. The way to practice this is, you can go to the stance and posture drills here. The way to practice this is the narrow stance drill is one of my favorites, where you put your feet together and you basically make your stance really unstable so that if you lean back, it feels like you're going to fall over. And by doing this, it makes any leaning almost impossible. So that's a great drill to do. And also this posture sway drill to eliminate any posture movement in this plane. So by doing those two drills, this one you just put something between you and the target, something visual, so that if you sway, you can see basically that thing is moving, and when you sway, it becomes very obvious. So those are the things that I'd recommend for the posture, and that's why it's really important. It's for your shoulders and to be able to feel what's happening through the shot, as well as many other things, to be fair. And that's why I go on about posture all the time, but you get the idea. Now, the next thing that I want to mention as well is something kind of technique related, but a little bit more to do with training as well, which is perfection, or waiting for perfection. Too many people, I've coached a lot of archers, and there's quite a few that say the same thing, and that's, I'm waiting for my technique to get better before I then shoot more arrows and practice more, because I don't want to ingrain bad habits. This is a really common thing, and I completely get where it's coming from. But this is kind of the wrong way around it. It's not that you get your technique perfect and then shoot loads of arrows and get it ingrained. It's by doing lots of repetitions and training a lot, you then build a good technique. So if you go around it the way that I mentioned before, you're actually limiting yourself, and you will never get to the point where your technique is perfect. There is no such thing. But you'll never get to the point where you're happy with your technique and you feel like you can then train and shoot a lot. Because there's no such thing as that, and you're always going to be searching for the next thing. So what I would recommend doing instead is making sure in your training sessions that you have a clear goal and you're clearly working on something to improve, rather than just going through the motions. Because you're correct that if you just shoot 100 or 200 arrows for the sake of it, and you're just counting arrows to shoot them, you are just ingraining whatever habits you've got at the current time. And it's only by deliberately focusing on something, deliberately working on something, that you can then improve a part of your shot. So that's the kind of takeaway from that, is don't wait for perfection to try and ingrain things and train more. Train deliberately and focusing on the right things so that you improve and basically get a better technique. So that's kind of what I wanted to mention there. Now, the next mistake that people make when it comes to technique is they don't join my Online Archery Academy courses. Now, this is just clearly a bit of a plug, but honestly, you definitely need to check these out if you haven't already. You can go to onlinearcheryacademy.com on the front page here, click Explore the Courses, where you can read about the beginner's course, about the advanced recurve technique course. But essentially, if you like this video, you're going to love what's in these courses, because basically I cover, for the beginner's course, everything you need in your kind of first year of shooting, and then the advanced technique course is basically everything from that point. So covers everything from basically all the technique you need to know, how to train this technique, how to troubleshoot, issues you might face, how it should feel, which is a big part of technique, because it's not just only what the technique should look like, but also how it should feel, and what the point of each technique area is, because sometimes you need to adapt the technique to yourself rather than just blindly following something. So I try and teach you not only the technique actual aspect, but what the goal is for it, so that you can work out what bits are good for you, what bits aren't. So I'd strongly encourage you to check those out, or because it's coming up to Christmas, maybe this is a good video to send to your partner, friends, family or something, just as a little encouragement, if you like, to maybe join or buy the course as a nice Christmas present. So definitely check that out. Also, if you like this video, you can also become an Online Archery Academy member. So what you can do there is, I'll click that for you, so it will join, it will come up in a sec. But essentially you can join my community, and not only do you get exclusive Q&As, that kind of thing. I'm going to be recording some Q&A sessions after this video as well that I put in that community. So you get exclusive content from me there. But also, if you want, you can get coaching from Steve Weiler and Alec Potts. So this is a new thing as part of the community. You can upgrade the membership and get weekly feedback videos. If you go to members.online archery academy, if I go there, Academy, onlinearcheryacademy.com. If you go here, you can join. There's a video that explains all the memberships. You can join for different amounts per month, depending on how much feedback you want. You can upload your videos, your technique videos, your questions, and you'll get either 1 coaching feedback per month, 2 coaching feedbacks per month, or 4 coaching feedbacks per month from Steve Weiler or Alec Potts. And essentially, when you join, you'll send some videos in of your shooting I'll look at them, I'll review what you've mentioned, what your goals are, all that kind of thing, and I'll match you with Steve or Alec depending on who I think is going to fit you best, and you can then work together towards your goal. So this is really exciting. I'd really encourage you to check this out if you haven't already. But now let's get back to the video, because that was a little bit of a detour. Let's get back to the video, and the next thing that I wanted to mention is rushing the shot. This kind of comes back to the posture, the stance and the posture. If you're rushing the shot, the biggest thing that I see is essentially the lifting the bow portion is where most people go wrong. As they lift the bow, whether it's from the foot or from the leg, they kind of rush and they lose balance. They lose the kind of deliberate movement of the shot, and then basically they can't feel what's happening, and crucially, every shot is then different. So what I want to encourage you to do is slow down and use different speeds of the shot in your training. So where this comes from, I've got some video that I want to show you now actually, which is, if I bring it up here, I want to show you Kim Woo Jin first of all, if we go here. And this is, the reason I want to show you this is a good example of a shot that's very fast. People see this and then they try and emulate it because he shoots in a very fast way. It's a very smooth, very quick draw. That's good. But it takes a huge amount of practice to get to this point, a huge amount of volume, and also a lot of body control. If you're watching international archers, I would encourage you to think a little bit more along the lines of Lee Woo-suk. Let's get a front view. So the reason I want to encourage you with this is because Lee Woo-suk has a little bit more of a slow, deliberate shot, a little bit more controlled, and that's going to lead to less errors. So the way he raises, gets ready, and then draws, the actual draw is still quick, as you can see there. But this way of shooting, where the raising in particular is a bit more deliberate, and he's making sure to raise and then get in line and then draw, something a little bit more along these lines is going to be less prone to error. So I'd encourage you to think a little bit more like this. And with regards to the speed of the shot that I was mentioning, the speed of the shot, the speed of the draw in particular, experimenting with different speeds of this can be good. So you can see, for example, the current speed. Maybe he took 2 or 2.5 seconds to draw to full draw. What I'd encourage you to do is, rather than just having one speed that you train with a couple of different speeds to improve your feeling of what you're doing. So what I mean by this is, when you're drawing up, rather than only doing your normal shot speed, you can do some drills with a light bow where you do half speed, or maybe even just 50% slower. But you kind of come in and you're drawing a little bit slower, making sure you feel everything, and you're able to do this because the bow weight is less if you're using a light bow. Or sometimes doing faster. And then when you go back to your normal speed, it feels like you've got a lot of time to do everything. So experiment with these speeds. And the reason I'm mentioning this is, from a skill acquisition point of view, variance is actually helpful to learn a skill, which might sound counterintuitive at first. But the example, so I was reading about this in a basically a physical conditioning and a skill acquisition book. But essentially what they were saying is, when they did a study with baseball pitchers and they were essentially throwing the baseball, and then they varied the weight of the baseball. So I don't know how much a baseball normally weighs, but let's say it's 50 grams normally. And then they gave them some baseballs that were 40 grams and some that were 60 grams. And then they were varying the weight, slightly lighter and slightly heavier. It actually improved their pitching ability with the normal standard weight ball, providing they didn't go too far. If they gave them a ball that was way light or really heavy, that didn't help. That actually didn't help them improve their technique. So the lesson here is, within a reasonable range, some variation can help you learn things better. And in this point that I was talking about rushing the shot, changing your tempo of your raising in particular and your draw is something I'd encourage, especially when you change that with poundage in terms of doing drills with a light bow and a TheraBand. So that's the thing I kind of wanted to mention with that. Now, on to the last thing, the release. This is the big one, the main thing that kind of comes from a lot of the other things that we mentioned today. One of the biggest mistakes that people do when it comes to the release is they don't focus on keeping the tension enough, and they just relax. So if you watch this video again of Lee Woo-suk here, and we come in, watch his release. On the moment of release, he keeps everything really tight, keeps moving, and notice the fingers here. And this is another great example, because I know a lot of people classically, they're like, oh, I need the release to be really soft and smooth and the fingers to be like completely relaxed. This shows that you don't necessarily need those, classical relaxed fingers. And again, this is an example of something I'd encourage more people to kind of aim towards this, because I would rather you have a strong, snappy release that doesn't collapse and your fingers are a little bit straighter. I'd much rather that than trying really hard to have this soft, magical, clean release, but you're just collapsing on every shot. A lot of archers get into that problem where they're trying to make it smooth, they're trying to make it clean, because that's what, for example, let's go back to, again, Kim Woo Jin is a perfect example of this. His release is so smooth and so soft, and it just looks so effortless. People try and create that, but they lose the fact that he's probably had 3 million arrows to practice that, and it used to be actually a little bit more snappy, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit straighter fingers, and now over time it's kind of mellowed, if you like, a little bit. So this is where I'd encourage a little bit more of that snappiness. In order to do that, here's some drills as well. I want to leave you with some great drills on this. So if we go back to the archery drills page, and we're just going to go to the correct size, you can go to the release drills as well. A couple of my favorite drills for this. The release follow through drill is really, really good, because this practices actually the movement of your hand and your elbow, and crucially also your draw scapular blade along your back. If you just humour me while you're watching this video now, maybe you're on the sofa or whatever, do this drill with me. Get to your full draw position, scratch your neck with your fingernails, and from your anchor position, now move your fingers around, scratching your neck, and you're basically drawing with your elbow around the body, and you're scratching your fingers along until your release position. And as you do that, now do it again with your eyes closed and just feel what's happening in your scapula. Even though, as you're doing this, you can do it slowly, coming along, and just feel your scapula. You've got no bow weight at all, but I'm sure you can feel right now quite an intense squeeze of your draw scapula towards your spine as you're doing this drill. That squeeze is what we're aiming for when you're shooting. And it's incredible that you can feel that now, even without a bow, because you're having to work in the same way. If you're doing this now in a drill, and then you go to, for example, a TheraBand, and you're doing a release with the TheraBand, most archers who have trouble with their release on their shot, if I give them a TheraBand and then tell them to release, they'll come up with the TheraBand, and then they'll do this. So it's no wonder if the release is a little bit outward, or essentially not directed like this, even with a TheraBand, it's no wonder that that's the case when they're actually using their bow. So this drill is a great way to practice the movement and teach yourself the path that you want your elbow to follow. It's also a great way to develop flexibility as well, to be able to come around the body like that. Really, really great drill. And then the other one that I want to leave you with is this finger release drill, where essentially you put your fingers together and you practice the release like this. And you can practice, similar to what I mentioned earlier, you can practice different speeds of that release as well. You can do a fast one, you can do a slow one, super snappy, a little bit softer, or smoother, I should say, that kind of thing. So hopefully I've given you some 5 of the most common technique mistakes people make, but more importantly, I wanted to give you some takeaways that you can practice and train, and how to improve these as well. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next one.